Hi, and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today we are going to cover 12 questions that, if focused on, will improve your leadership. So, reading a book here recently that is entitled First Break All the Rules, What the World's Greatest Managers Do Differently. And I had this book for quite a while, and then decided to open it. Kind of came to the top of my reading stack, and what I found was just some really insightful information as to what it is a manager should be focusing on when it comes to developing their team and leading their people. In any business, especially as we see it in our business being emergency service, there are a ton of things that can take our attention, take our time, take our mind share, if you will, because we never really know what's going to happen. We can have a plan for the day, but that plan can go awry very quickly based on, the number of calls coming in, or, an issue with manpower, or whatever that looks like. So, what we can do in a leadership role that I think definitely applies to really everyone in a role is really focusing on the right things. If we focus on the right things, we can get the biggest impact. And obviously, identifying those things is key, and then really working on them on a day in, day out basis is what's going to propel us to the next level. It's going to propel our team to the next level, because we're going to have people on our team that have a lot more buy-in, and they understand, and we're hitting all of their needs from a leadership perspective. One of the things that we do here at Peterman is we do a survey quarterly. And this isn't just any survey. We use a software called Amplify, which asks each of our team members, it's about a 5-6 minute survey on and just ask them different questions. Do you feel supported? Do you feel like you're doing things that are at your best? Do you feel like your manager this? Just a number of questions, and then basically it brings all the data together and then produces a report that allows us to take a little bit deeper dive into the true feelings in each department, and what people are struggling with, where there's opportunities for growth, and really where the manager is doing a really good job of supporting their team. So I encourage anybody out there, if you are in a leadership role, taking feedback is critical. Oftentimes we can get stuck in that, well, I'm the manager, I'm in charge, do what I say. Well, we all know how that usually turns out is, when we're not meeting the needs of our team, they're going to find other ways to get their needs met. Sometimes that means finding another place to work. Sometimes that means doing their own thing. Whatever that looks like, at the end of the day, it's not good. We've got people that are on different pages and doing different things. And I think that the biggest thing that I drew out of this, and I'm really touching on kind of the first chapter of this book today with these 12 questions that I'm going to touch on, that a manager should focus on. But the thing that I drew out of there is the word care. And I think it can easily get lost in the shuffle of the business world, and the metrics and the budgets and the KPIs and the this and the that. And really, what building a company, what building a department, what building whatever it is that you're leading amounts to is care and compassion for those that you lead. When those that you lead know that you care, they'll run through a wall for you. And I've mentioned this many a times, and it sounds easy when said out loud. It really does. Just care for people. Okay, well, I'm nice to them. But to me, care goes a little bit deeper. And what I hope to kind of reveal today is that care can be directed by really focusing on the right things. And that care becomes more self-evident to the people that you're leading, and to you as the manager. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to first start off by kind of listing out these questions and then kind of touching on each of them individually. And so, what this book recommends, just to give you a little bit of background, is to really, as a manager, take these 12 questions, and if you were to give them to the people that you lead, how would they rate you on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Where would they rate you? Kind of what would your total score be if they were to answer these questions? And so, as a manager, what we're working to do is how do we get an increased score on each of these questions? I'll then go into kind of where to start. So you got 12 questions. Well, focusing on all of them, that seems like a lot. And so the book does a fantastic job of kind of laying out, okay, where do we need to focus? They describe it as base camp, level 1, 2, and 3. Kind of equating it to climbing a mountain, if you will. And then we'll talk a little bit about kind of putting that all together from a management leadership perspective. As I said, I think the key here is to understand that leadership is very simple. It is when it gets difficult and we try to it is when we complicate it that it gets difficult. And so if we can keep the focus on caring for the people on our team, supporting them, making sure that they have what they need, oftentimes we get a really fantastic result. With that being said, let's jump into the questions. So the questions are as listed here, and they kind of go in order. I'll touch on the order and the importance here as we dive in a little bit deeper. So first question, do I know what is expected of me at work? So expectations. So as the manager, do you know what they should do, but they may not know what they should do, or they're confused, or at the last place they worked, they were required to do this, but they're required to do something very similar, but a little bit different at your place. So as a manager, getting very clear on expectations. Do they know what is expected of them? One of the things that we are working on right now to implement is scorecards. And scorecards from a perspective of not trying to micromanage people, but trying to lay out the expectations so that they know what winning and losing looks like on a daily basis. The other piece of the puzzle along with scorecards is knowing and allowing people on the team to know where they're at. So scoreboards. So do you have a scorecard for each individual person and then a scoreboard that kind of tracks their daily progress? You know, every person on your team, if you asked them, they want to be better tomorrow than they were today. But oftentimes they don't know how to get there, and that is our job as a leader. And they don't know how to get there because they don't know what's expected of them. So that is a key right there, is understanding what is expected of you. So if you had to look at your own team right now and think about how each person would rate, do I know what's expected of me? The best thing that I've found in this question is just to ask them, do you feel like you know what's expected of you? Some may say yes, or some may say no, and have them listed out. Okay, well, what is expected of you? Well, I'm expected to do this, show up at this time, produce this result, so on and so forth, and make sure that you guys are on the same page. And there again, prefacing, this is not to micromanage, this is not to hold something over your head. This is simply so that when I am leading you, you know where we're going. That is the key. If you don't know where we're going, if you don't know where you're expected to go, we're going to be going on two different paths, and you're going to be getting upset because I'm telling you to do one thing. I'm going to be getting upset because I think you should be doing one thing, but you're doing something totally different. And we have to get really clear on this. That is the first step. Next is, do I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right? So there is nothing more frustrating in my role when I hear someone in a department say, well, I've asked the manager for this, I don't know how many times, he just never got it to me. She's just never got me the information. I can't stand that. It is the easiest thing to do is to make sure that your team has what they need to be successful. If they have what they need, well, then they can be successful. If there's something outside of their control, and it's preventing them from being successful, frustration is going to mount. So, as a leader, as a manager, continually checking in to make sure your team has exactly what they need to be successful. This may come in the form of inventorying trucks, continually asking, do you have what you need? Is something broke? Do we need to get it fixed? And oftentimes you're going to have to pull this out of them because, you know, I've seen guys that'll go with a broken piece of equipment. Oh, it's been broke for 3 months now. Well, obviously there tells me something that if without that you can't do your job properly. So you either felt like you couldn't come to me or you just didn't. And either way, we need to have a conversation because we need to get that cleared up. You need to feel like you can come to me anytime something breaks or is malfunctioning or you need a different tool or whatever that looks like in your particular role. Question 3, at work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? So this is a lot of, am I in the right seat? A lot of this is at the beginning of the hiring phase. So, getting really clear on what your objectives are when hiring somebody is going to further set you up for success on this question. So making sure you got the right people and making sure they're doing what they do best every day. Question 4, in the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good work? So this one sounds simple, right? Hey, good job, guys. Hey, way to go. You did great, whatever. And we think that we're doing our part. What I would recommend is that really digging into how each person wants to be praised is extremely, extremely important. You have to understand that some people like to be praised in front of the team, others like to be pulled aside, others like a thank you note, whatever it may be. You have to understand how each person likes to be praised, because if person A doesn't like to be in front of people, yet that's how you praise people, or that's how you would want to be praised, well, that's never going to work for him. He's probably going to answer low on that question, even though, well, we praise the guys all the time. I just don't understand. What do you mean? What are they not paying attention? No, they're paying attention. That form of praise just does not resonate with them. So dig in and understand your team. Where you're going to find this information out is one-on-one meetings, talking about more than just work with your team to better understand how they function, who they are, what they're about. You can also use personality tests, disc profiles, different stuff like that to understand who your team is and what they're about. Question 5. Does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me as a person? So this kind of goes along with number 4 and what we just talked about. You are not going to create these bonds if you don't know who your people are. If you have people on your team right now that directly report to you and you're not sure of their spouse's name, their kid's name, what they like to do as a hobby, or what they're doing this weekend, or if they had a good weekend, like all of those things are important. Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like, I mean, who cares? I think they're coming here to work, like their spouse isn't here at work, kids aren't here at work. Well, you need to know that, and you need to take a genuine interest in that with each of the people that you lead. When people know that you care, as I said at the beginning, they're going to do extraordinary things for you. They want to make you proud. Think about your parents or, that mentor that you had. You want to make them proud. You want to go do things where their teaching, their influence in your life made an impact. So have those questions. Yeah, they're not always comfortable, but just go in and at your own pace. I don't really like talking about that stuff either. Like, it's somewhat uncomfortable. I get it, but I know that it's important. And I know that taking a genuine interest in the families and the personal lives of the people that we lead are ultimately going to help us lead them better and understand where they're coming from, understand their perspective on things a little bit better. Number 6, is there someone at work who encourages my development? So, again, are we putting together plans for the development of our team? I think this is the one separator that I've seen in a mediocre manager and a really, really strong one. A really strong manager comes in every day, they look at their team, and they find out how we can make them better. Not how we can hit the goal, not how we can hit budget, not how we can sell another job, how we can develop our team. Because at the end of the day, your job as a leader and a manager is to develop the people that are actually going to go make the results happen. Bad news for you. As a manager and a leader, you can't go make it happen. Yet you resign that role when you move from an individual contributor to someone in leadership, someone tasked with developing their team in pursuit of a goal. You're not going to, screaming down from the mountaintop directives and orders and this, that, and the other. Guess what? That's not going to get your team any better. That's just going to remind them of, oh, there's a goal out here and I still don't know how to get there. Most times when we're not hitting goals, it's because it's not a lack of effort, it's a lack of knowledge. And most don't know what they don't know. So it's your job as the leader to teach them, to educate them, to develop them. And this question, I think, is somewhat of a gut check for most managers because it really dives into, are you developing your team? Or are you just coming in every day and looking at the board and making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be and this, that, and the other? That's babysitting to a certain degree. Like, we don't need any of those. We definitely don't need any of those around here. We're all adults, and we recruited people for a reason, because we know that they're going to be a fantastic piece of our team. So we need to develop them so they become even a bigger part of our team. So think about that one. That one is awfully critical. Number 7, at work, do my opinions seem to count? So when you get feedback from someone on your team, or you hear something about someone on the team and they're disgruntled about whatever it may be, what's your first reaction as a manager, as a leader? Let me guess. It's probably, does that guy know what he's talking about? Are you kidding me? Why would he say that? Like, has he not been paying attention? And while that may be in some instances warranted, what kind of a leader are you going to be? What kind of a leader is your team going to view you as if you pull that person aside only to prove to them how wrong they are and how right you are? Maybe they'll take it well. My guess would be probably not so much. So, what can we learn from this? What can we do to make sure that the people that we lead understand that their opinion counts? Well, what if the conversation looked like, hey, I heard or overheard or noticed that you had mentioned something about this particular situation. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? I really want to help in that area, and make sure that we're all on the same page. There again, not trying to prove anyone wrong, but rather providing an opportunity to listen. A lot of times, as with the manager, we want to be the one talking all the time. And really, management and leadership comes down to how good of a listener are we? How much time do we invest in our team as it relates to listening to them, hearing them out, pulling things out of them by asking the right questions? We have to take these steps. It's difficult. I struggle with it myself, is the listening. And what I can tell you is that you will probably always have the reaction that I described at the very beginning of this particular question, of the, I can't believe they would think that. What are they thinking? They're stupid. they don't understand the big picture, all of these things. And that's okay. That's human nature. We are all designed to protect ourselves. And when someone doesn't understand something or is confused about something, or it's a reflection of us, right? Like we didn't do our job, or we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that's not all. It's not it at all. It's just simply an opportunity for understanding and for listening. Number 8, does the mission / purpose of my company make me feel that my job is important? So obviously, there's a couple of things here that could or couldn't be or may not be in the control of the manager. Obviously, you've got to be at the right company that stresses the right values and procedures and process and treats everybody fairly and is out for the customer's best interest and all of those things. So there again, that's part of your upfront of, hey, I'm working at a place that aligns with my values. But then it's your job to make sure that you make those values and the mission of the company alive. You have to make it alive. You have to make it come alive. You've got to take those values and make sure that you're praising people for that are exhibiting those values, sharing examples of how so-and-so did a great thing, and that really epitomizes the value of whatever it is that your company holds as a value. And, while this seems kind of high level, kind of in the clouds type stuff, this is the stuff that connects your people to your company, that has them running through walls and doing, exercises and growth and all of those things. So there again, make sure we're connecting. You're kind of the conduit between the company and the frontline employee or the individual contributor. You're in the middle. So you're that conduit that's going to bring that message down to them, mainly because you're contacting your people the most. They're talking to you a heck of a lot more than they're talking to the senior leadership of a company every single day. Now there should be communication, but you know what I'm saying. You're in constant contact with them on a daily basis. Number 9, are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? So this is one of the things that we recently learned here, and I've seen it come really firsthand, is one bad apple can ruin the entire department. And you keep a guy around too long, or the gal who just doesn't have a great attitude, but they're serviceable, they're all right, they're not starting a fire, but they're not setting the world, they're not really killing it either. And what that does when you as the manager accept a lower performance and or lower quality work, well, it diminishes the quality of everyone else's work. And in order to have everyone engaged and moving forward, you have to make sure that everybody is on the same page, and that everybody is bought into the mission and everybody is pulling their weight. If a few individuals feel like, well, I'm, kind of holding this team up, if it ever comes a time where someone needs to volunteer for extra hours or get something else done, there's 2 or 3 people that are just raising their hand and everybody else just kind of sits in the background. Encouraging that buy-in for team building is critical as it relates to, building an effective team and being an effective manager. Number 10, do I have a best friend at work? So, as a manager, how can you promote this? How can you make sure that the camaraderie is high on your team? Well, there's a number of different things, whether it be kind of outings outside of work, whether it be, promoting people getting to know each other, just different things like that, forums, group chats, different stuff like that, where people can help each other. You probably have a best friend because they helped you or you helped them at some point along the way. So really keeping an eye on that. It's like I said, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers. It's easy to get caught up in the metrics, but at the end of the day, how do you show care? How do you foster care within your particular department? Number 11. So we're almost done. Two more. In the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to me about my progress? So somewhat relates back to the first couple of questions in that have we given what's expected, and then are we monitoring progress? So it's one thing to hand out, hey, this is what I expect you to do, but if you never review the progress with that person, and they know that they're failing or they're not sure where they're at, well, what do we think the result of that is going to be? Well, likely it's going to be disaster. It's not going to be good. So um, understanding what that looks like and figuring that out is critical um, with the team and building that team. Number 12, this last year, have I had the opportunities at work to learn and grow? So we talked about development, and this relates to, are we giving our team the opportunity to grow and learn? Are we providing the training? Are we checking in to make sure that the training resonates? It's very easy to schedule a vendor in or a training class and say, hey, we're doing training. Well, not if we don't check in with them and say, hey, was that valuable? Did you get a lot out of that? Or, hey, what do you need help with? Or what would take you to the next level? Whatever that is, having that conversation is critical. And it's going to help you rate a little bit higher as it relates to that question. So we've read through all the questions. More than happy to get you a copy of those as well. But I think the thing, overall is, and the book points this out, is people don't leave companies. Companies, for the most part, if they're successful, they're doing a pretty good job of providing the things necessary. And I think what people know is that, companies, while may try to differentiate themselves, at the end of the day, a lot of companies are fairly similar. If you're doing the same kind of work, same industry, yeah, there's companies that are better than others, and we want to try to always strive to be better. But at the end of the day, the people are going to leave a manager, not a company, because they know that if they go to the next company, a vast majority of their experience is dictated by the manager that they have. And for you to understand that as a leader, I think is very critical, because it's very easy to blame an outside source or some other event because someone leaves. And the way that I've always looked at it is, you hired them and you were super excited when you hired them. So sometimes we get the hiring piece wrong, and sometimes those people just don't work out, and that is where we need to kind of refine the hiring piece. But there's also times when we don't do our job as leaders, and what results is a person being dissatisfied, yet we place the blame on them rather than looking inward and taking responsibility. Scoring high on these questions is not about getting the best, team that you possibly can get. That's a component, but the biggest component for me is taking responsibility. So there's one way to go about this, and that is, well, I'm going to put these questions out there, see how they rank, and we'll try to make some improvements. Or there's the manager who says, you know what, I am going to personally invest myself into these questions and into my people so that they feel like they could rate me at a 5 on every single one of these. And you may never get to a 5, which is fine. But I think the important thing is working towards it. How do I continue to develop my team? How do I continue to allow them to understand what it is that is going on, what it is that they need to continue to grow and learn and get better? So, as I said at the beginning, the book then takes these 12 questions, which we could dive a whole lot deeper into. But it takes these questions and it ranks them. So, not ranks them, but kind of puts them in an order. And I'm going to flip to that section real quick and kind of briefly describe that. We've been Been at this for about 30 minutes. Hopefully take probably the next 5-10 minutes and kind of wrap this up as kind of the lesson for today. So the first level is what they call base camp. Like I said, it's like climbing a mountain. Is kind of how the analogy that they use. So they talk about base camp, and they talk about when you first start a new role, needs are pretty basic. It's kind of like, what do I get? You know, what do I, what's what are all the, you know, just things that are in kind of the handbook type thing. So that relates to questions kind of 1 and 2. So, you know, do I know what's expected of me, and do I have the materials and equipment I need to do the work right? So as you can see, these are fairly basic. And I think when we went through the questions, we kind of touched on them as basic. You know, have you told them what's expected? Do they have a scorecard? Do we have a scoreboard? Do they know what's going on? Do they know all the ins and outs? I think another thing that's super frustrating and that we've worked hard to try to eliminate is someone starting a new role and they have no idea who they're supposed to call. They have no idea who does what. You know, they don't know, well, who's that guy? Who do I call? What do I do? What's going on? And that can be super frustrating. And to me, that kind of, when you don't know something like that, that kind of relates to that materials and equipment. Well, I don't have the material because I don't have the process needed to make this happen. So that's what they talk about of kind of the what do I get, kind of the base camp. Camp 1. So as you climb this mountain, what's in camp 1? So camp 1, they categorize as what do I give? So this relates to questions 3 through 6. At work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? In the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good work? Does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me as a person? And is there someone at work who encourages my development? So again, what do I give? So based on the feedback that your people are getting is going to dictate the level of give or the level of commitment and effort that they give moving forward into their role. You know, am I where am I advancing? What am I doing well? Am I being recognized for that? And I feel like recognition is sometimes a tricky word because it's like, well, I have to recognize everybody for everything. And it's not so much recognition. I think I'd almost change the word to just acknowledgement. Like, people need to understand that what you're doing makes an impact and is important. And that you're doing a good job. And yeah, there's moments where recognition is key. Like, hey, you did an outstanding job. You really went above and beyond, or you know, you hit a KPI that we've never seen before, whatever that looks like. But I think it's extremely important to get really clear on those. And you know, what do I give? Camp 2. So camp 2 is, do I belong here? So these are the ones where we talked about a little bit are somewhat company focused, and they're going to be directed by the company, but you're that conduit to making sure that your direct reports feel that. At work, do my opinions seem to count? Does the mission purpose of my company make me feel my job is important? Are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? And do I have a best friend at work? So again, this is all of you being the manager, being that cheerleader, being that person who is promoting the values and the mission of the company and promoting camaraderie within the team. The more of that you can create, the more of an environment you're going to create for success for your team. Like I said, they're going to want to do things outside of their normal effort in order to make you proud, in order to make their teammates proud, which is ultimately what you want. Then you have everybody driving forward. Camp 3 is the last 2 questions. So we've covered 1 through 10. The last 2 questions are, how can we all grow? So in the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to me about my progress? And this last year, have I had the opportunity to work at, or have I had the opportunity at work to learn and grow? So these are those ones that, you know, in the advanced climb where you're kind of juggling what they need to be doing now, but then also introducing things that would get them to that next level or take them in that next step of their career. And you know, as the book goes on to describe kind of these different things, they talk about, one thing, and they call it mountain sickness. So they've described kind of the focus of the questions as climbing a mountain. And what they refer to as mountain sickness is when a manager focuses either putting emphasis on the wrong in the wrong order, or more emphasis on one level of questions than the other. And I think that they point out something great, and I'll just read this passage from the book. It says, to secure fives to all the questions, you have to reconcile responsibility that at first sight appear contradictory. You have to be able to set consistent expectations for all your people, yet at the same time treat each person differently. You have to be able to make each person feel as though he is in a role that uses his talents, while simultaneously challenging him to grow. You have to care about each person, praise each person, and if necessary, terminate a person who you have cared about and praised. So, a lot of contradiction in there, right? So you've got a bunch of questions that hit at all different levels. And I think that that is the tricky part. And sometimes the part that can lead managers astray is we focus where we don't focus on the base level questions that we need to address first. And so we never tell them what's expected, but we're focused a lot on growth. And we're like, well, we're giving this guy all the opportunities in the world, yet he doesn't even know what's expected of him in his current role. And so I think it's a pretty natural progression from each stage to the next, but we've got to get really clear on where we are, the order in which we focus on these questions, and then making sure that we do focus on all of the questions at the right time. So there again, they never said leadership was easy, right? It is a delicate balance. And it's something that we're constantly working on. It's very easy to get out of whack. You know, I found myself this morning dealing with a situation where I think I talked about in here, where someone was confused about something, and my natural reaction was like, why would they even think that? Yet taking a step back and analyzing, or actually getting ready for this presentation, kind of brought to light that, like, well, this is a learning opportunity. This is an opportunity where I obviously have not done a good enough job of talking with this person, explaining to this person, doing whatever they need to feel like they're in a good spot. So I've got an opportunity to do that. I don't have an opportunity. It's not an opportunity to prove them wrong. It's not an opportunity to prove to them I'm right. It's an opportunity to learn and listen. And if we learn, listen, and care about our people, we're going to be in a lot better place as it relates to leadership. So that is all I have today. I'm excited to kind of get back into a regular cadence of our Can't Stop the Growth podcast. Obviously, we're kind of in a virtual environment, so we don't have a kind of an audience. But there again, I wrote at the top of my goal sheet for 2021 is don't let the circumstance be an excuse. And I think that is extremely, extremely apt in the times that we are in with COVID and virtual settings and not being able to come together. Is don't let the circumstance be the excuse. We don't have time for it. We need to keep moving forward. We may just have to move forward a little bit differently. So that will be all I have. Thanks again for listening. Hopefully you got a lot out of that. Definitely pick up the book if you get a chance. The book is First Break All the Rules. It's by Marcus Buckingham and Kurt Kaufman. Kurt is with a C. What the World's Greatest Managers Do Differently. It is a must read if you are at all interested in improving your leadership capability. Thanks again. Look forward to talking soon. Bye-bye.